on the show, and he is the mortgage guy. Whether you're looking for a refi or a mortgage to purchase a new home, Mike Rauch will get you the answers you need. The mortgage firm is licensed to do loans in Florida, Alabama, Tennessee, and Georgia, and they have local offices that cover all of South Florida. So if you're thinking about a refi or a new mortgage, go to the mortgage guy, Mike Rauch, and find out what he can do for you. The Mortgage Firm, Inc., NMLS 189233, Florida license MLD 78, equal housing lender. The law office of Paul A. Krasker has been specializing in real estate law for nearly 25 years and has the professional team you need. Upside down with your house, Paul's team can help you conduct short sales, loan modifications, even if you're behind on payments. They also help you with foreclosure defense and bankruptcy. They can even help you get a student loan modification and repair your credit to get the score you need. Paul's full-service team has helped thousands of our listeners, and they can help you too. Trident Title LLC is the largest privately owned title company in Florida. When you need a title company to complete a refi, home purchase, or sale, Trident Title has got you covered. Not only do they offer competitive pricing, Trident Title has attorneys on staff to make sure if you have bumps in the road declaring title that you can get the job done. Beware, not all title companies in Florida have attorneys on staff. Trident Title does and complies with all the new federal regulations released last year. Ross Camaronets, owner of Brightway Insurance, has been helping our listeners get great rates on homeowners insurance plans. Haven't checked your homeowners insurance policy in a while? This is a great way to help reduce your monthly mortgage payment. Ross can also help with renters and auto insurance. Ross is only a phone call away and can usually get the answers you need same day.
Call Ross today at 561-425-6228 or drop by his office at 873 Donald Ross Road in Juno Beach.
So now you know why I'm happy to be part of the Florida Talk Real Estate Show, the longest running real estate show in Florida. And all these sponsors are just a phone call or a click away. Just call 888-973-7828. That's 888-973-7828. Or go to floridatalkrealestate.com. That's floridatalkrealestate.com. And don't forget to use the most accurate search engine to find your new home or ask for a free home valuation because floridatalkrealestate.com has you covered. That's floridatalkrealestate.com.
From the Anajar and Levine Accident Attorneys Studios.
Have you been in an accident? Call Anajar and Levine Accident Attorneys at 1-800-747-FREE.
That's 1-800-747-3733.
Real Radio 92.1 is WZZR West Palm Beach, an iHeartRadio station.
Download the free iHeartRadio app for all your music, radio, and podcasts. This is Florida Talk Real Estate with Jim Dipaola and Johnny C. Got a question for the show? Call us live at 1-877-927-6969.
That's right. This is Florida Talk Real Estate, the longest running real estate radio show in Florida. If you need to know what's going on in the real estate market in Florida, you got to check out this show. So if you're on Facebook or YouTube, which we went live about 2.5 minutes ago, and Elizabeth, man, she's been waiting the whole time for us to come on because she came on right away. So good morning, Elizabeth, Betty. Hope everything's going well. And so we're back on Facebook and YouTube right now. So if you want to catch some of this, come back to us later after the show to watch any reruns if you want, if you're driving around in your car. We are going to get into first Hurricane Ian and Nicole. Mike, how did you end up doing out there in your neck of the woods, a little farther west than me?
With Nicole?
Yeah, not too bad, right?
Yeah, it was. I would say, medium rain and medium wind. It wasn't really anything to. We weren't concerned. We didn't put shutters up, and it certainly my yard didn't get as soaked as it did with Ian.
I was going to ask, so you didn't have too much flooding in your backyard?
No. I remember Ian, we kind of had like heavy rains the week before Ian came through. And so, yeah, I kind of had a lake in my yard with Ian, but this one just, little puddles and mostly gone by now.
I came up with the number 4 reason why it sucks to live on the beach.
Wait, do you want to refresh the first 3?
Sure. So number one, your car is always salty. You'll never have a clean car ever again.
Okay.
At least not for more than a couple hours at a time. Number two, being late because the bridge keeps going up.
That's right. You're missing is it time bridges over there? Or is it kind of like you
Up in
blow
the
your
North
horn and they'll
County,
pull it?
during season, it's supposed to be every hour, but if the boats aren't there, they don't just put it up for no reason. Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
Then, and what was the third one? Wait, I forgot. I can't remember what the third one was. So there is a third.
Does it have to do with sand everywhere?
No, but I was thinking of using that, but I kind of felt it was like a dirty car that your house is always sandy. I was looking at my furniture yesterday. I was like, I need to dust this stuff. There's too much grit on the table right now.
All right. So what's number 4 then?
Number 4 is being evacuated. I was one of the 67,000 residents in the county that had forced mandatory evacuation from the area. And luckily, we didn't get it too bad over there on Singer Island, on the north end of Singer Island. I know a lot of people that stayed. I went in and stayed with my mom to make sure that she was okay and her stuff was great. We put the accordion shutters up just to make sure that she felt safe and secure. But we heard a little bit of wind a couple of hours from like 1 a.m. to 3 a.m. when the storm hit. And after that, it was nothing. So we got very lucky. But I got to tell you, if I stayed at my house, I wasn't going to be driving anywhere anytime soon because the roads on A1A were looked
Overrun.
like they were floated pretty well. Yeah, but they did recede pretty quick too. So we got very lucky. We dodged another one here in the East Coast, or at least Palm Beach County, Broward, Dade. We kind of dodged another one. Hutchinson Island up there, up a little farther north of us, didn't fare so well. And now we're still getting reports of how much money is being spent for the claims for Ian. And of course, here it is. Okay. So Ian, right now we have 622,000 claims from Hurricane Ian. And the insured losses have gone up to $8.7 billion. That's with the B, $8.7 billion in losses. So that's going to be kind of interesting. Now, the 622,000 claims, that's up from a week earlier of 607,000 claims. So we had another roughly 15,000 claims that last week compared to the week before. Now, that doesn't only include property insurance. That's not just homeowners insurance claim. That also includes commercial and auto. And the reason why I'm saying that is Ross taught me that. Ross Cameron from Brightway Insurance, Juno Beach. The only Brightway Insurance office you should be thinking about calling is Ross's office, Juno Beach. And Ross explained to us in a couple of shows earlier that when you read those reports, it isn't just property insurance. The last time Ross was on the air, he's not an expert on this because Ross creates the policies for homeowners when they are homeowners and cars and all that. But he doesn't deal with the claims afterwards. That's a whole nother different profession. But he was saying based on what the numbers he saw, he felt like Citizens Insurance was going to hold and that we would not have to go into that, what I call penalty phase of if we ran out of money from Citizens Insurance, then the first thing they're going to do is they're going to come after all the Citizens insured property owners and make them pay a fee. And that would happen, I think, 3 times. And then after that, if there still wasn't enough money, then they'd start coming to everybody that has a car and charging everybody that has a car a premium to make up the difference.
Spread across everybody.
Yeah, but what I'm more worried about with the second hurricane, which did some real damage up north, north of Palm Beach County and Martin County, I'm just wondering how much more this insurance industry can take before it's a no-moss situation. I really feel like we're on the precipice of a homeowners insurance crisis on top of super high interest rates compared to what we've seen over the last 5 years. So that's a double whammy. but the second whammy hasn't come yet. Everything's been pretty copacetic, meaning that the insurance, I haven't seen anybody not be able to get an insurance policy for the people we've been working with. I'm closing 3 buyers in the next couple of weeks, and all of them were able to get insurance policies. Thank you, Ross Camarinez from Brightway Insurance, too. They all went there. So, which gives me another shout out. Richard came to me. We helped him short sell a relative's house about 2 years ago. Did a nice job on that. And then he called me because he had a relative that needed to get out of their rental situation, and he wanted them to go into a house that he was going to buy. We went through that. We went through the inspection, the appraisal, all that. I think we're closing next week, Mike. Is that it? Because you were the mortgage company for that.
Well,
Are we closing?
no, I don't think he's next week. But hold on, I'll tell you.
Okay.
We
That's
can
okay.
do some live on air. This is where Nancy would know this stuff off the top of her head. I'm sure she's listening.
Yes.
December 1st for our close date.
Oh, okay. I think we're going to close earlier, Mike, than that, to be honest with you. I heard that we might close a little earlier, as long as that you're able to close. I think we're going to close earlier than that.
We'll be fine. And so and also the December 1st, something is jogging my brain that you can't close on the 1st of a month for some reason.
For real?
Having to do with the number of days of daily interest you collect. I don't know. I have to think about that.
Oh, that's interesting. I never heard of that before. So Hurricane Ian really put a whammy on us. The biggest claims were in Lee County. We'll see what happens from there. Okay. Wanted to talk a little bit about development. I was reading an article. I don't know if it was the Sentinel or the Post, but they were talking about how west of Swinton Avenue, on Atlantic Avenue, west of Swinton Avenue, is now going to be a new area of redevelopment. And that brought me back to memories from 1987, specifically November 15th, 1987, which is how many years ago is that, Mike? Because November 15th is Tuesday. So what would be the anniversary of that?
So it's 35
87.
years?
Oh my God, oh my gosh. So 35 years ago Tuesday is when I started as a newspaper reporter for the Sun Sentinel. Don't hold me against that. Don't hold me. I'm not a reporter anymore. But and I was
Wait, don't hold it against you, or don't hold you to that date?
No, don't hold it against me that I was a reporter. And I was a crime reporter mostly. I didn't really cover politics too much. I did mostly crime. And I'll never forget the first day on the job. 1987 was a very high crime period. The late 80s, early 90s was a super high crime period for South Florida. We had the crack cocaine epidemic with the cocaine cowboys. Go to Netflix and go binge out on all those shows because I experienced most of that. I don't have.
You're saying that with too much revelry, Jim. Too much smile to your face.
Oh, it was pretty crazy back then. It was so crazy that they had the 3 strikes and you're outlaw, and because there were so many criminals being arrested back then that the prison system and the jail system and the prison system in South Florida couldn't handle it. So people were serving between 15 and 20% of their actual time. So if you got 10 years, you're probably serving 18 months to 2 years, and they were spitting you out again.
Yeah.
And the recidivism of people getting rearrested was just getting crazy. So it got so crazy that they passed a state law called 3 strikes and you're out. And I remember one of the people, and if you got 3 strikes, you were getting life. And I remember this one guy, he had committed 2 pretty bad crimes, and he got out both times. And then the third one that got him life sentence, he broke into a store, like a little tiny convenience store on Clematis Avenue in West Palm, and stole some potato chips when he broke into the store. Mm-hmm. And that got him life.
That's his 3rd strike.
Potato chips.
I think that convenience store is still there. There's only one.
I think it is.
Over
You're
that
right.
area.
I think that's still there. You're right. There's that one. I don't want to say it because I don't remember the name, but I think it's still there. So that's how crazy it was back then. So my first day on the job, which was November 15th, 1987, I had a very weird experience. So the first thing that happened was I wasn't even hired to be a crime reporter, but I was thrown into the job because somebody got fired that day. The boss that didn't want to hire me, that was forced to hire me, then made me a crime reporter, hoping it was going to crush me and that I would quit.
Is that a tough gig to be in the world of newspaper reporting?
Okay, so let me tell you about my first day. So the first thing, I'm sitting there and we have all these scanners, right? You got all these police scanners and FBI scanners and all these scanners in the Palm Beach County Fire Rescue. And there were, I think back then, there were 37 police departments and 22 fire departments. Then you had customs and FBI and all these others. And you have these scanners going off all the time. It's like this din around the crime reporting pod, right? And everybody, all the crime reporters are listening to it, trying to pick out if anything is interesting to go run out to. And usually you find that out either by the signals, like for example, signal 7 is a dead person, right? And signal 0 is armed and dangerous. So if you heard somebody say signal 7 with a signal 0 suspect, blah, 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 in the 1400 block of 23rd Street or whatever, you'd go run out there and find out what was going on. Wow. So I wasn't good at listening to scanners that day. I was brand new on the job, and it sounds like gibberish when you're listening to it at first. You have to pick up an ear for it. And next thing I know is they say that there's a floater out in Boynton Beach, and I got to go out and cover a floater. And I'm like, what the heck's a floater? And they're screaming at me, just get out there, just get out there. So I'm hauling out there, and I got out to Boynton Beach Boulevard and 441, which, let me tell you, does not look like Boynton Beach Boulevard and 441 today, 35 years later. That was all farm area out there, right? Yeah, all that was total farm area. And I hauled way, not following public safety protocols by any means. And I haul out there, and I got there before almost anybody else. All I saw was one police car, sheriff's deputy, no ambulances, no nothing. I don't know what a floater is. I go there.
Had you seen Caddyshack?
Yes, I've seen that many times. What are you thinking about? Are you thinking
the
about
opening scene, the candy bar? You could maybe that was going through your mind as the floater.
Yeah, okay. I was thinking that's funny. So what happened was I go out and I'm pulled over to the side of this canal, and the deputy's there, and I didn't know what to say. I was brand new on the job. It's my first day, and I wasn't planning on being a crime reporter. So I get out, and I gingerly go over to the deputy, and I say, I understand that there's a floater out here? And he goes, and I go, he goes, yep. And he didn't want me there, and he was upset. And I go, well, where exactly is a floater? I didn't even know what they were talking about.
You still had no clue.
Still had no clue. So he had gloved hands on. I'll never forget this. He had gloved hands on. And he goes, well, let me show you what a floater is, because he was trying to freak me out on purpose. And he leans over into this caramel-colored water, the canal out there, right? This ruler straight canal that goes for miles and miles. And you can see him dip his hand in the water, and then he grabs onto a belt loop of a jean, like jeans, and he pulls it closer to them, and all of a sudden the body comes up, and it was a dead person. I even remember the lady's name. Her name was Janice Cooper from 35 years ago. It was an unsolved murder, still unsolved murder today. She was a prostitute and was murdered and then thrown into the canal like a piece of garbage. And the thing that was so disgusting was when the body flipped over when he pulled it, and you can see that the fish and turtles had eaten her face away.
Wow.
Right? Now, I drive back to my office, had never seen a dead body before. Okay. Now I drive back to my office to go write my story, my first story ever for the Sun Sentinel. And I'm writing this story. And the next thing I know is I got the editor screaming at me, we got a signal 7, signal 4 on I-95 right in front of our building, because we were at Lantana. We were on Linton Boulevard right in front of 95, where the Sun Sentinel building used to be. And they told me to get my butt out there right away. And I was still writing the story about Janice Cooper at the time.
Were you on a typewriter?
No, we had just, it's funny that you talked about that. We used typewriters when I was at the college paper. but they had just switched to these really, really bad computers, but it was still way better than before. We didn't even have internet back then, I don't think. And
it would have been some sort of word processor instead of maybe like a special purpose. Not you didn't have like a Windows system like Windows. What version would it have been back then? Windows 95.
I think it was called DOS.
Yeah, you just had a word processor.
Yeah, that's what we had. It was internal. There was no internet. Everything was computer. I mean, everything was books. Like we had these special phone books so that we could do reverse directories and everything. So I go out to everything's shut down in 995. Somehow I illegally get through the system, and I park my truck over there, and I walk over to this trooper, and I notice that there was a tractor trailer, and it was stopped, and that there was this 450 Mercedes SLL convertible that was completely underneath the truck, right? Okay. So what happened was the truck stopped for traffic, and the car never stopped, and it just went straight underneath the tractor trailer. So trying to act like a sophisticated reporter. Now, this one, there were a lot of people. The ambulances were already there. There were tons of crime scene investigators, homicide investigators there and everything. I walk up to this deputy in an area I shouldn't have been in. I had no idea I was beyond the crime scene tape. It was my first day on the job. The guy
you were faking it until you make it, right?
Totally faking it till I make it. So I walked out there and I'm trying to act like I know what I'm doing. I go, so it's a signal 0, signal 4, signal 7, which I had no idea what that meant.
Yeah.
And he goes, yeah. And I go, did anybody die in this crash? Because I didn't know what else to ask, right? And he goes, I don't know. You tell me. He goes, yeah, somebody died. He was being very jerky with me. And he goes, who the heck are you? And I go, well, I'm a reporter for the Sun Sentinel, blah, blah, blah. And he goes, no, you're not. I know all the crime reporters at that paper.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, I'm brand new on the job today. And then his face kind of lit up a little bit. And then he said to me, do you have any other questions for me? And I go, yeah, where's the dead body? And he goes, well, that depends. And he starts walking towards the 450 SL. And I followed him. And then he goes, do you want to see this part of the body? And then he points to the north. We were on the southbound lane, and he points to the north, right where the overpass for Linton Boulevard is, where the ambulance was. And they were taking the head from the woman that was decapitated and putting it in a paper bag, right when he was telling me that, and pointing over there. And he goes, do you want to see that part of the body, or do you want to see this part of the body? And we walked right up to the car, and I saw the decapitated lady there, and she had a brick phone in her hand still. That was back when they had brick phones. So she never stopped. She was talking on her phone. When the traffic stopped, she never stopped. So now I saw I saw a floater.
Decapitated. Yeah.
And now I saw the decapitated person. So now I haul back to the office, and now I'm writing that story too, right? And then I'm so shot by this point. Saw two.
Wait, was this the first instance in history of cell phone causing a car accident?
Oh yeah, right. Yeah, right, because of the brick phone and everything. Yeah, exactly. The first in the country. So I'm back to the office, and I'm trying to deal with the idea of seeing 2 dead bodies in my life now, right? Totally destroyed bodies, right? And then I'm so exhausted. I finish my stories, I follow them, but I was a night cop reporter. So every night we would have to watch the news at 11 o'clock to make sure Channel 12, Channel 5, and Channel 25 didn't have something that we weren't going to have in the paper the next day. Then we'd hang it up. Well, there was a stabbing in Delray, and this gets me to downtown development. This long story, right?
Wow. So there's a real estate connection.
Yeah. So I go down to downtown Delray, and there was a stabbing just east of Swinton Boulevard in a house, just east of Swinton Boulevard on Atlantic Avenue. Now, back then, east of Swinton Boulevard all the way to the beach now is just totally redeveloped, and you could go have a blast there. There's great hotels, great dining, good entertainment spots. But back then, Mike, it was a ghost town after work. After 5 o'clock on a weeknight, completely dead out there. Even lights, it was even dark on Atlantic Avenue back then. So I'm driving over there about 11:15. I got like a 12 o'clock deadline to follow the story.
Hold on a second. Just a picture. What is there during the day at Is it like restaurants, bars?
No. It's only like office stuff. It was all
Okay.
like for offices. So everything closed at 5, and then that was it, right?
Yep.
So I drive over to this house, and everybody's there because I'm late because we saw it on TV, and the ambulance is there, and all these cops are there. And then I just happened to get there when the guy, the victim, was on a gurney, and they were working on him as they were rolling the girlie to the ambulance. And there was this big, gigantic butcher knife stuck in the guy's chest, still sticking out of his chest. And he flatlined and died right there in front of me. And it was a domestic dispute.
This is
And
still the first day on the job?
first day on the job, this is like 12 hours. I had been on the job like 12 hours. So then I went back and I filed my story. And the next thing I know, the next day, if I'm not mistaken, I think the turnpike crash was a front page story. So I made the front page on the first day of my job. The prostitute, Janice, who had died, Janice Cooper, that made the front of the local front, right? And then the stabbing only made a little brief because we didn't have time to rip apart the paper. So we had a little brief just so that we could say we got in the paper. And I remember driving home that day and crying like a baby on the way home because I was like, oh my God, is this what my life is going to be?
Yeah.
Is this what my fresh life? I saw 3 dead bodies the first day. And one of them was in downtown Delray. Now, downtown Delray is a robust, vibrant area right now. And it was one of the big pushes in the early 2000s with Meisner Park being built in Boca. And then Delray had Atlantic Avenue. And then Lake Worth had Lake and Lucerne. And West Palm had Clematis, right? Skipped over Boynton on purpose because we're going to get that in a second. And it was like, oh my gosh, right? So one of the biggest problems is in one of the biggest issues for planning has been west of Swinton from 95. If you go 95 east on Atlantic Avenue to Swinton Boulevard, that area has always been pretty blighted. And they keep trying to put stuff over there, but it never really took to draw major crowds. But now it looks like there's a push where a lot of stuff is going on. There's this big 150,000 square foot mixed use project that's going on over there soon. Now, I was a little disappointed when I read there's not going to be an entertaining or dining in that mixed use project because they said they don't really need it because there's so much entertainment and dining a half-mile away east of Swinton. But when I was reading about it, you know what they're going to do over there, which I think is really exciting in that area, like the 800 block west of Atlantic Avenue, so 8 blocks west of Swinton, is they're going to create a, what do you call them? What do you call those, the shipping containers? You know, those big shipping containers?
Yeah.
They're going to make a shipping container complex for businesses over there. And I had gone up to St. Augustine a couple of years ago, and they had a complex like that up there, and it was really cool. It was all these shipping containers, and some of it was 2-story where there were shipping containers on top of shipping containers.
Yep.
And they had all these great mom and pop businesses that probably couldn't afford normal rent for like major stuff in a major downtown area. But these shipping containers became very affordable. So there was a lot of really eclectic type of businesses and cool places to eat at that shipping container complex. And I think that's what's going to happen at Delray. So I'm really excited to see that they're going to try to, march west now from Swinton. They're really making a push there. So I'm very happy to see that.
I've seen the shipping containers converted to housing, Jim, like kind of like the tiny home style, movement, but I haven't seen it done commercially.
Yeah,
So,
commercially, actually, to me, is a better way to do it in a way. I've seen in West Palm, they do have shipping container homes now. I haven't done enough research on it to do a story on it, but it's kind of interesting. So with the downtown, let me just wrap this up. So I thought Delray's going through this big thing. Now, there's a couple of cities right now that are having big debates about high-rise buildings in their area. And Fort Lauderdale is one of them. And Fort Lauderdale has a limit of 300 feet for a building. It can only be 300 feet tall.
Okay.
Unless you're in the downtown entertainment area. And now they wanted to expand it up to 500 feet towers, not in the downtown area, throughout the whole city. You could build something up to 500 feet tall. The residents have gone nuts, and they're like, no way, we don't want it. Too much traffic, not enough emergency support. And looks like they're going to reject the 500 foot limit. Now, but they also said, we don't have a problem with that in the downtown. You want to do it by the beach, you want to do it by Las Olas, you want to do all that stuff down there, have a blast. That's where it should be. That's where it's appropriate. Boynton Beach is going the exact opposite way. Boynton Beach is saying that they don't want anything. The highest building in Boynton Beach right now is over on Casa Marina, which is that downtown marina off of Ocean Avenue in Boynton Beach. Okay. And the highest one is 144 feet. And they were trying to, I'm trying to find the article here. Hold on here. So
yeah, I'm even trying to think of what building that would be.
Oh, it's the mixed use. It's the mixed use condos that they built over there that overlook the marina.
Okay.
So they have a big, tall, mixed-use building there for the marina. It's been a pretty popular area. It's a pretty nice area over there. They call it the Marina Village of Boynton, right? And they've always done pretty good. It's a good rental place. If you want to buy a rental property, that's a good place to go because they allow you to do rentals. But they were asking people to expand the 150 limit to allow it to go higher just for their downtown. And the residents on a 2-to-1 factor are saying, no way, Jose, not happening, right? Which I really feel is going to hurt them. Boynton Beach is been the city that's been left behind for all the downtown redevelopment that happened over the last 20 years. Yeah. We don't have a Meisner Park, and I like Boynton, don't get me wrong, but I used to cover it. We don't have a Meisner Park. We don't have an Atlantic Avenue. We don't have a Clematis Street. We don't even have a Lake and Lucerne. We have some stuff down there. One of my favorite restaurants down there is Hurricane Alley. I love that place. It has one of the best salads. And they have Rauch shrimp, which is awesome. And I go there for Rauch shrimp all the time. And it's a great place, locally owned, small business owner, Kim Kelly, really super popular restaurant. And then you've got Two Georges across the street on the marina.
Yeah, I was going to say, that's that one area where there's Two Georges. What's the other one?
With Banana Boat?
Yeah.
Banana Boat's over there. But after that, there's really nothing there to bring you down. Now, they just put in an amphitheater. And then this weekend, they're having their first ever reggae fest over there. So that should be kind of exciting and bring in some vibrancy over there. I might even check it out this weekend. But Boynton is saying, no way, we don't want tall buildings in our city. We think that the buildings that are already tall in our city don't belong there anyway. And that has been one of the biggest problems with Boynton Beach, why it won't grow. There's so many not in my backyard type of people in that town.
Yeah.
And Boynton has traditionally been an older age population than the other cities. So a lot of the older people don't want their taxes to be raised. They also have a lot of homestead protections, which means the tax base in Boynton is lower than other areas. So these high-rise buildings coming in would help with the tax base to give them more money to do other stuff. But they want to stay the sleepy town, and they're doing a very good job of it. So they're still staying there. Now, they're going to be mad at me. They've already kicked me out. This city has already kicked me out twice and have banned me from going into City Hall twice when I was a reporter, because I've written stories that prove that asking why is Boynton Beach being left behind with all this redevelopment when I was a newspaper reporter. And while they have had some new development going on out there, they tore down City Hall, built a new City Hall, and they're using that land for other purposes now where City Hall used to be. Boynton is not going to look like the other cities in the future, okay? And then, of course, West Palm is going through a tremendous growth spurt right now.
Lots of tall buildings going up over there.
Oh, my gosh. I mean, Jeff Green is building some big stuff over there. City Place, which is now called The Square, that was a $200 million project in 2000. Now they're adding another related companies, which is the largest builder in Florida, is now modernizing the square and adding another $300 million into that project. So that's pretty interesting.
Yep.
And there's a lot of stuff going on downtown in that area. So Boynton Beach is still on South Florida is still on a high growth area. And that kind of ties into what we were talking about with home value and appreciation, because this is the theory. Even though that we might be seeing a slowdown across the country, there's a lot of people feel that we are specifically Palm Beach County, Broward County, Dade County to a certain extent. Those three counties are still going to be insulated from the slowdown because of all the people coming from the Northeast coming down here, right? Now, there aren't any new statistics that I found, but about 61,000 families moved down here in the first 6 months of the year from New York, New Jersey, California, Michigan, and Ohio. But 61,000 of them have come from New York to move down to South Florida, or have changed their license plates from New York to Florida. That's the metric we're using. And we're expecting to see that. They're expecting to say that the slowdown isn't going to affect us as much because of that. And the reason why they're moving down here is a bunch of reasons: weather, taxes, low taxes, and we've become more of a red state now than ever before. And there's a lot of people from the Northeast that are just tired of being in a blue state. They want to be in a red state. So they're coming down here for that reason. So those are all the reasons why they think we're going to be insulated. I think it's going to help us. There's no doubt that that will help us with the slowdown. But whether or not that's going to be a deciding factor as to whether we're going to be affected the way the rest of the country, I don't know.
Yeah, I think the question is, how insulated is South Florida from the trends in the country, or even the trends in the rest of Florida? I mean, we're probably slightly insulated, but we'll probably go, if there's huge swings, Jim, we'll be swinging along right along with everyone else. I don't think we're expecting huge swings, but in the long term, South Florida is still a very desirable area. I mean, I moved down here in 2005, right? Like right at the beginning of the last kind of peak. But I still love it now as much as when I loved it when I was like, oh, let's go to Florida. Here's why. And look outside right now. That's it. Simple as.
I mean, there's a reason why we're one of the biggest tourism states in the country, right? Because people like coming here, and people forget that we live what other people would consider paradise, right?
Sure.
With all our foibles and the craziness that happens here and everything. Yes. We're still considered to be a paradise. And I really, I was born and raised in New York. I moved to Oregon for a while with my family. They moved down here in 1974. So I feel like this has been, my life for my home for the great majority of my life. Yep. I really don't have any desire to move. I love Florida, and that's why I love real estate. I love real estate more than reporting. I don't have to see dead bodies every day.
I was going to say, that could jade you, whether we live in paradise or not. You see 3 dead bodies your first day in the trenches there.
Oh my God,
it was just a crazy day.
That was a crazy, crazy day. And like I said, I went home and cried like a baby that night. I cried. I was like so freaked out. And ironically, I ended up becoming a crime reporter. I think I was, out of my 18 years of being a journalist, I think I was a crime reporter for 15 of them.
Yeah.
Right. And I thought I would get out of that position as soon as I could. I was like, get me out of here. But then I started enjoying it, because to me, it became fascinating as to why. I never tried to report what happened as much. What happened is important, but I always wanted to learn more about why. You know what I mean?
Like investigative journalism.
Yeah. So to me, that was the really fun part of and watching the growth that we had. That was journalists now, I'm told, because I haven't been a journalist for so long. I left journalism in 2005. But I'm told that 87 to 2003, was the halcyon days of journalism, like the best time to be a journalist ever in the history of journalism. You got paid well. You had great technology because the technology grew as I became a reporter. You
Yep.
had great technology. Back then, the Sun Sentinel on Sundays, they used to weigh what you would get plopped on your doorstep. And sometimes the Sun Sentinel would weigh over 10 pounds landing on your doorstep. One paper, 10
Yeah,
pounds.
if it was wet.
No, if it was wet, it got to 20 because we did that, right? But 10 pounds, your newspaper would be 10 pounds with all the inserts for advertising and everything.
Sure.
I subscribed to the paper for my mom for the Palm Beach Post. A Sunday paper where it weighs like 6 ounces.
Yeah, I was gonna say 10 ounces now, maybe.
Yeah, it's like maybe 10 ounces, right? I mean, it's just completely different industry now. And
Yeah.
most people, unfortunately, they don't read the news. And I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. I think being informed is always a better thing than not being informed. But if
I don't know why you need real news, Jim, when you can get cable news anytime you want.
Yeah, make up. It should be like, I was watching Seinfeld a couple of days ago, and Kramer came up with the idea of build your own pizza restaurant,
Okay.
right?
Yeah.
So today it's like build your own news,
Yeah.
right? You can create whatever news, you can filter news so much. You can create your own reality with news today.
I mean, you definitely determine what you're listening to and what you're watching, but I guess it's kind of always been that way. Even back in your days, like certain papers were left-leaning, right-leaning, right? The Wall Street Journal versus the Washington Post type of thing, maybe on a national level.
Back then when I was a reporter, there was a guy named Wayne Nzinga who used to own the Dolphins, and he became super, super famous. He started he owned like 2 garbage trucks, and then he turned it into Waste Management, which is one of the largest garbage collectors in the state. And then he ended up buying and creating Blockbuster, right? Back then when you used to rent the video cassettes or whatever, right? And he did Blockbuster, bought the Dolphins, right? Was really well known in the community as a great benefactor of the community. But people never understood, and when I say people, journalists, never understood how he went from 2 garbage trucks to this gigantic empire, right? So people were trying to investigate because they heard supposedly he was connected to corruption. Now, I'm telling you right now, nobody ever proved it. So I'm not saying Wayne Nzinga or anybody in his family is corrupt at all, but that's what the scuttlebutt on the street was. So our paper created a task force to investigate, to find out how he really made his money the way he did, and could he have really done it. And I remember being in one of the meetings because I was part of that team, and one of the journalists said to the editor, "Don't worry, boss, we'll get him." He got fired, right? He was just outright fired that day, and he was a longtime journalist at the paper. Why? Because it wasn't about getting anybody. It was about reporting the facts and finding out, how this guy built his empire, and find that out. Now, nobody ever found anything wrong about him, right?
Yeah.
Nobody ever found anything wrong, of course. But that's the way newspapers used to be. I don't know if they're like that anymore, but that's how I was growing up being a journalist, being, trying to be independent. And you could have an opinion on stuff, but just don't inject your opinion into the story. And if there's 3 sides to the story, you report the 3 sides to the story and let people decide, what they want to know. And so anyway, it was fun to be part of that at the time. But somebody, Francis, thank you, is saying, loving your stories today, Jim.
Me too.
So
I'm with Francis.
Yeah. So very interesting. I was sitting down with a couple who's brand new to the area, and they weren't sure where they wanted to live. So they definitely didn't want to be in Broward County, but they were thinking about Palm Beach County or Martin County. So I went through all this. I always consider that there's 7 or 8 super big cities in Palm Beach County, right? You got Boca, you got Delray, you got Boynton, you got Lake Worth, you got West Palm, you got Riviera, Palm Beach Gardens, right? / Jupiter. and then maybe out west like Wellington, right?
Okay.
Those are the big ones, right? And I was describing how all those cities, like, they all have their own different personality when you
Yeah,
think
the
about it.
vibe, sure.
Yeah,
Sure.
so I was telling them about all the different vibes about it, and then talking about Martin County and how Martin County is so different than the tri-counties below it. And they were just sitting there, and I go, I'm sorry, I'm probably talking too much about this, probably telling you. They're like, no, this is really great stuff to understand what's going on in all these cities. So it's kind of fun to reminisce about being down here, because I love Florida. That's why
Yeah.
I'm in real estate down here. I don't ever want to leave real estate. Hopefully I'll be doing real estate for the next 30 years, which would put me pretty up there. And I would do it as long as I can, because I really love
You might be
Florida.
the oldest real estate agent active in the MLS there.
That would be
The
a nice
license.
thing. That would be a nice thing to go for. I don't think I'd ever retire as long as I can do it, because it's fun and it's interesting, and I like how it's different every day. Like being a journalist, every day is different. The way we're doing our business now, Mike, you and I, are way different than we were doing it 8 months ago, than January, right? Think about it. Did you didn't have that great app for the buyers that we have
Sure.
now.
Yeah.
And the reason why we have that app, want to pitch this app again to Mike, that Mike has just put in his repertoire. All our buyers now, or almost all our buyers, have this special app that Mike plugs in their specific information. So anytime that they're looking for a property, they don't have to go to one of those mortgage calculators or anything. All they
Yep.
got to do is find the property that they're interested in, plug in what the purchase price they want to pay, what the taxes are, the current tax bill, and if there's an HOA fee or not, or condo fee.
Yep.
And it will tell you whether or not you could afford the house based on your criteria. And we love that. I love that, Mike. It's such a great tool to use right now. It saves, and the other thing it does is especially the people that are tight and they're at that upper limit
Yeah.
of what they're trying to buy because the interest rate's being so high. What's great about it, we had a couple recently, Megan and Dylan. I think they're closing in the next week or two.
Yeah.
And I call them my hurricane couple. They're first-time home buyers. Chris and his wife, Amy, had recommended them to come to us. Chris and Amy have done a couple of deals with us. They work at Publix as a manager. And then Megan and Dylan are also Publix workers, and they're first-time home buyers. And Chris is like, you got to go to Jim and his team. He's going to do great for you. So I call them my hurricane couple because they're the first-time home buyers, because we put their house on the we found their home. I was driving up there to show them the home the night before Hurricane Ian, and I was driving all through and they ended up buying in Okeechobee County. And I was driving all through Okeechobee County. I have all these videos I created while I was driving the car of all the rain and everything while I was going out there to check out the houses.
Storm chasing. Nice.
Yeah, kind of storm chasing while I was looking for their houses. And we went out and looked at 3 or 4 houses that day. And then we found the one they loved and put an offer in. And they're going to be closing on it. And so we bought it during Ian, and we're going to be closing right after Nicole. So I call them my hurricane couple. And the reason why I'm bringing them up, we had to use their app because they were very tight on their budget, and they were very conservative because they were first-time home buyers, so they didn't want to splurge and not be able to what they afford, which I love that attitude. And the house that they looked for, they got rejected on the app. It came out red because the down payment was okay for them, but the mortgage payment was too high based on their budget. But when we checked it, it was only like $56 a month more than what their budget was, right? So after looking at all the houses based on this house being, and when I say their budget, they could afford more, but Mike always puts in what they want in there. So they decided that they'd rather buy this house with the upgrades. It had a brand new roof. It was nicely upgraded. So they're like, yeah, I'll pay $56 a month more for this house with a brand new roof versus another house that has a 17-year-old roof, right? So they went ahead, and we're going to be closing them very soon, and everything's going good for them. So congratulations to them.
Yeah, they're They had they were one of those, Jim, where they like I'm setting a limit on their maximum payment that they qualify for, and but they had a really good idea of where they wanted to be from a monthly budget perspective, and luckily they had some space to maneuver, right? Like their number was kind of lower than what I could get them qualified for, and they said, well, we don't want to push up on it too much, like, but if we find the right house, right? And so in that case, it was $50 above, which sounds like crazy, like $50 a month. But I'd like their mentality was we know what we can afford, right? We know what we need to be spending. Can we find the right house that checks as many of the boxes as possible? And they were able to do that. And the app, to your point there, helps not only know like what their limits are as far as what they qualify for, but also just like what are the numbers going to be, and accurate numbers. This isn't like the thing that we've always battled against, and we've never done it this way, Jim, is just send somebody out there shopping with the generic pre-approval that says, 350,000, right? Or whatever it is. Like that doesn't give them the information they need to make a decision on whether they want to make an offer on a home or not, right? And you have to know your numbers. We've been saying that for years and years and years. So this app actually puts that tool in their hands and also the real estate agent. So on the fly, you can know your numbers, right? And also let them know if they're exceeding the limitations under which they can get approved for a loan.
Knowledge is power.
I like
knowledge is power, right? So having this app and knowing what's really going on, and you can do it 24/7, whether Mike's on vacation, if he's sleeping, whatever, right? If he's not available, you can find out exactly what's going on and know what's going on. And this app Mike is so confident with this app that if Mike's not around and we need to get a pre-approval letter, as long as it's approved in that app, all we have to do is hit the button and we have the approval letter, just as if we called Mike and said, hey, Mike, could you give us an approval letter for this number?
That's right.
So it gives us the speed we need when we need it, and it's awesome.
And it's also like that pre-approval letter, when you're on the listing side, Jim, you don't want a stale approval. Stale meaning it was generated a month ago, right? Like you want the date on that pre-approval to match the date that you're making the offer. You want the number, the purchase price on the pre-approval to match the purchase price that you're offering. So it's like super fresh, hot off the presses. Here's our pre-approval. Go ahead and call the loan originator if you want to, talk. I mean, we're talking about these things that make your offer competitive against other buyers. And regardless of the market conditions, if it's a good home, Jim, there's going to still be multiple eyes on that home, and potentially multiple offers.
Yes, even though that we're seeing about 25% less sales right now than we were a year ago, or even in January, we're seeing about 25% less sales, meaning closings, not prices, closings. Even though we're seeing that, if the house is priced right, it has the size and the features that are competitive in that neighborhood that you're selling, you may get multiple offers at one time still. It's not as common by any means, but it still will happen. So being competitive means giving the most updated information so that you can get the deal over somebody else. And the other thing is that like recently, a couple of weeks ago, we had an agent turn an offer on one of our houses. I'm making up numbers here, so it doesn't matter. But our house was on the market, let's say, for $450,000. I'm just making up a number. They turned in an offer at $400,000, but their approval letter said that they were good for $485,000. Right now, we weren't going to take $400,000 on the house, no way. Right, so we countered back at full asking price because we know they could afford it. Right. Now they decided not to move forward with the deal, but that just hurt their negotiations really bad. And if you got a buyer's agent that's using a pre-approval letter and you're walking around with a pre-approval letter for your max amount, and the house you're buying is less than your max amount, and you're turning in that approval letter, a good listing agent, I wonder who that would be, is going to negotiate, and it's not going to be in your favor.
It's just, it's in my view, it's information that does not need to be communicated at that point, right? Now, does that mean you don't tell, like if that listing agent calls you and is like, it's kind of a low offer, can they do better? Of course, as the buyer's agent, you're going to say, yeah, of course they can. Like they're super solid. They can do a lot better, but they're not going to overpay, right? Like, but you're not giving away the limit, right? You're not telling them what that, whatever. It's just information that should not be communicated at that stage.
Yeah, exactly. And you have to know your numbers. And like I said, knowledge is power. And in this market, more power you have, the better. Just want to wrap up with one last thing. Okay, I'm going to make a video on this. And when I do, I think it's going to go a little viral. I don't know what viral for me is because I'm not like some YouTuber, TikToker person. But I have a case, congratulations, Tom, where his cat made him $200,000.
Okay.
You don't sound surprised by that, Mike?
No, I have no idea what that means. I'm trying to put it together in my brain.
His cat helped him make $200,000 more in his real estate transaction for sold price. And the cat is the sole reason why that happened. Yeah, okay. So we're going to talk about that.
Is that a teaser for next time? Or
it's a teaser. So you know what I'm going to be doing, Mike? I'm going to a shelter and buy myself a cat. Because I want $200,000 more for whatever I'm trying to buy.
So you have to get a little kitten, maybe.
Yes. But okay. Yeah, so we're going to talk. We're going to be talking soon about how Tom's cat made him $200,000. Tom has given us permission to talk about this. That's why I'm doing it.
All right.
And So, Jimothy, did I hear music?
Yep. Got about 1 minute left.
1 minute left. What do you want to say for 1 minute, Mike? I just want to say I'm glad we got through the show. It's been kind of
we got through it. I'm glad to hear some of your stories. I would always love hearing your stories from back in the day and South Florida in the late 80s and early 90s was a little bit different, but still the place that we all love. So I don't know. I'm trying to think, what would Johnny C be doing? He would be telling everyone if they have real estate needs, whether it's buying a house, selling a house, stuck with the house, you don't know what to do, which may be happening to some people.
If you're looking for the pros, you got to come here. Florida Talk Real Estate. If you're thinking about buying a house, selling a house, investing in a house, if you're thinking about getting a refi, a mortgage, homeowners insurance, car insurance, boat insurance, if you're thinking about title problems, which I'm going to be working on with the customer this week with code enforcement issues, we are here for you. Any questions you want that you have about real estate, we're your one-stop real estate shop, just like it says on the YouTube and Facebook pages you're watching it right now. I think that's about a minute. So, Jimothy, I'm hanging it up for the day. I'm hanging up the cleats.
All right. Sounds good. Have a good weekend, guys.
Okay, you too, guys.
See you, everybody.
The bad news, the brain isn't all that great at hearing stuff and remembering it. The good news, you can watch us too. Like and follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at Real Radio 92.1. You're listening to Real Radio 92.1, and we are an...
Oh, wait.